new watch, new bail.
So what's good, TMG fam? Listen, y'all ready for another one of them That Chapter videos that's gonna tug at your heartstrings? Well, this one is the strange case of Chris Smith. Here we go.
Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this whole video, I got a hot tip for you folks. So listen up. Be careful who you go into business with. It's not the most groundbreaking tip, I guess. It's come up.
Where are my business owners who with the business partners? Where y'all at? Check in with me right now. Huh? This may hit home for y'all.
More than once, but you know what? You can't be too careful, so write it down. Anyway, this is the story of Chris Smith, a businessman in Southern California. Oh, and sorry, just one more, inside scoop. Be careful about emails you receive, because sometimes you never actually know who's sending them to you. So, let's give it a go.
Oh. And real quick, I'm very, very super skeptical of emails, bro. I am, man. People you don't know. That's why I'm skeptical, because you open it, your whole computer shuts down. Or somebody's taking over your computer or something, your information. I am very meticulous about emails, bro. I don't know why. Maybe this is why.
Chris Smith was a real California surfer dude. He grew up in Watsonville, Central California, and along with his family, close family to be sure, they were the super active, adventurous type. They grew up beside a lake, but when they weren't wakeboarding there, they were out in the Pacific, yelling cowabunga. Chris was a nice guy, a very helpful dude. He grew up in wealth, but wasn't afraid to share. Chris became a professional wakeboarder for a short time, until an injury ended that banjaxed his Achilles, before going to college and discovering he knew how to make a few bills. In 2009, Chris moved to Laguna Beach, and there he co-founded a company called the 800 Exchange with Edward Shin. Ed Shin was the son of Korean immigrants and a high achiever. The 800 Exchange was a digital advertising company. I mean, kind of. It's, you call in and they sell your information on to, insurance companies and whatever. But they managed to secure some big clients pretty quick into business. This led Chris into the cha-ching lifestyle, and he'd take friends and family with him on exotic trips, surfing in Tahiti, that sort of thing. Now Chris and Ed, they made quite the team. Even though they were different, they matched. Chris was the surfing partier, the jokester, the people person, jeans and a t-shirt. Ed, the businessman, a head for numbers, and wore designer suits. Chris was single like a Pringle, Ed married with kids. Now Chris would often talk about something he called the moo. The moo? Well, you have to ask, you're already one of them. Basically, fucking sheeple. People who do what the man tells them, believe the lamestream media. Folks who live to work and didn't work to live. Who didn't understand the conspiracies that are really running the world. All that stuff. He believed the shit was gonna hit the fan. He invested in gold and had escape plans, for when the machines took over and forced you to, the Matrix or whatever. Point is, he was an adventurous guy that was prepared to leave it all and backpack around the world.
So already you give your partner a sense of instability, maybe? Maybe he thinks that at any given moment, you could leave him high and dry. I'm just trying to see where, at some point, where some sort of resentment can begin to grow. Just speculating at this point.
And as summer 2010, came along, although it seemed like it wasn't quite apocalypse, now it seemed like the moo was getting to him. He was starting to feel trapped. The business, while it was taking off, he was rolling in the dosh, but at what cost? His surfing trips became further and further apart. The walls were closing in on free-spirited Chris Smith. He'd rather be a bartender on the beach. Something needed to change.
And see, that's where you have to realize that money isn't everything to everybody. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people will stop right there and be like, yo, you got it all, bro. I kill to get where you're at. You could take exotic trips. You got money. You got money to blow. You know, you're living a life. But in his eyes, it's not everything.
And then one day, Chris was gone. It was in June 2010 that Chris's brother Paul and his family were arriving home, from vacation. Chris was supposed to pick them up from the airport. Never showed. He had just upped and left. For parts unknown, surfboard in tow. Actually, he didn't take his surfboard with him, which is weird. But anyway, he was gone. No notes, no explanation for the family, just poof. Maybe he thought they might talk him out of it, and then speaking to Chris's business partner Ed, well, it turned out he cashed out. Ed bought him out of the 800 exchange for 1 million big ones, and so he literally took the money and ran. It was a few days later that Chris's parents got
Cashed him out for how much?
to Chris's business partner Ed. Well, it turned out he cashed out. Ed bought him out of the 800 exchange for 1 million big ones.
Doesn't that seem kind of low for everything they talked about with this company? He had money out the wazoo. This company was growing, going 1 million is what you would cash that out for? Seems rather low, don't it?
And so he literally took the money and ran. It was a few days later that Chris's parents got the first email. I'm going on a vacation, probably 3-week trip to Galapagos Islands and Costa Rica. I'll let you know for sure by Friday. Love you too. Alright, fair enough. His parents said, okay, great, good for you, take care of yourselves. Just be sure to, send us a few pics. It was startlingly sudden, but from Chris, wasn't, the most shocking thing in the world. Then it turned out that he dumped his girl that he was mad about. He would say she was marriage material. And it turned out he dumped her also via text message. He then emailed his brother saying, hey, got a new friend, like what you see? Her name was Tiffany Taylor, a former Playboy playmate. Hubba hubba. Jesus, he's doing all for himself. But it was weird because that wasn't the type of girl he would usually go for. His family said, might want to ask him again. Wealthy, good looking, sure she might as well pop along. The family received more emails over the following weeks and months. Sounded like he was having just a grand old time. Hey guys, finally docked in Ushuaia, a port in Argentina for a few hours, so I found a good old internet cafe. Amazing sailing for the past 2 weeks. We are on a 45-foot sailing yacht, so there's no internet or phones, just in case you're asking. Just us and a big drink. The islands we've sailed around are amazing. I'm going to get a list from the captain and send them next time I get online. I'm going to go look for a camera to buy too, so I can send pics. I made the mistake of not buying one when I was in Chile. I'll be back early to mid-August. We have about 20 to 25 more islands to explore, and I want to get up to Buenos Aires. And from there either fly back or go to Brazil and fly back. Paul, that's the brother. Wish you were here with me, bro. It's gnarly how nice it is. Probably better than the South Pacific. You know the South Pacific. Except the surf, since most islands don't have the beaches for it. Galapagos was incredible though. Definitely blows away Costa Rica. Chris. Wow, what a dream life. It seemed like he was just extending his voyage and couldn't stop traveling. But the strangest thing was he never called, and they never heard his voice. He gave an explanation in one email, basically saying he didn't want one, just didn't want to talk to anybody, he just wanted to get away and clear the owl noggin. It was around the second month into the trip, originally he was supposed to be back after 3 weeks, and now it just seemed to not be ending, and basically his family were starting to think, this is a bit fishy. Chris's dad, especially a former cop, it's like, man, things are just a bit odd. No bueno. So it was in late August that Chris's dad sent an email to Chris, basically like, if you can't answer these questions, you're not Chris. One was like, what was the boat we had when you were a kid in 1992? And the other one was, what was the lake that we lived beside when you were growing up? Stuff only Chris...
Smart. smart. But hey, Pops, kudos.
Would know. And Chris answered. He answered correctly. So, okay, it was Chris, Wait.
What the... Alright, that just threw me for a loop. He answered correctly. So now I'm of the belief it's gotta be the partner or somebody he knows. Like, I was suspecting the partner earlier. It's gotta be that or somebody in really, really, really close that would know that type of stuff or have access to that information.
Right off my shoulders, Right? So, months continued to roll by. Summer turned to autumn, and Chris was still traveling around the place. The business, the 800 Exchange, was doing well. Chris's brother, Paul, actually worked for the company. Chris had gotten him on board early. Then, in October, Ed Shin, now sole CEO of the company, flew the entire staff out to Las Vegas as kind of a, half company retreat / party and half meeting with potential clients. And it was while they were there and Paul was there at a party in Las Vegas, who happened to walk in? Well, the woman who was supposed to be traveling South America with Chris, Tiffany Taylor. So Paul, he went over. He was.
I'm starting to think I might have heard about this story somewhere, but I don't think it went in. I can't remember, but what is the odds that she would walk into that party, bro, at that time when they're there at that moment? Bro, that's why a lot of people say, man, it's gonna catch up to you at some point. The universe, as fate would have it, it's gonna catch up to you at some point, bro.
Dying to chat with her to find out, how Chris was getting on and what adventures they had been up to. When he introduced himself, she looked at Paul like he had two heads. And now the emails from Chris, who had left South America and continued on his travels through Africa, India, and Europe, now he was sounding depressed. He was using drugs, sounding suicidal. This past year and a half was such a nightmare for me, and I even contemplated doing some unspeakable things because I was so stressed, angry, scared, and confused. However, they kept coming, and the emails were kind of just all over the place. Because next, he had a great idea. He wanted to start a new company, and he wanted his brother to join him in Costa Rica to set it up. But before he could, he had to sell, the gold he'd been investing in for when society collapses. He had to sell that gold in Africa so that he could use the money to start a business, which sounded extremely shady and dangerous. On December 26th, he sent this to his brother. Just realized it's Christmas. Is it snowing in Bend? It's summer down here with it being so warm. I'm headed back up through the Congo. I'll be offline for a couple of weeks. Paid some dude $100 just to be online. Lol. I found a dealer in Rwanda that will pay 30% markup on gold Krugerrands. And that was it. Chris never emailed again. His family were sick with worry then. His mother even began scrolling Rwandan message boards in hopes of learning something about her son. It was in March 2011 that he was reported missing. Chris's dad contacted the US State Department and forwarded Chris's emails, basically hoping they could track down where Chris's passport had last been used. And a few weeks later, they got back in touch, and they said Chris's passport hadn't been used in years. It seemed like he never left America. Contacting Ed Shin, one of the last people to see Chris, of course, when he bought him out, Ed said that Chris had been in contact with some sort of fixer who had sold Chris a fake passport. Why he would want one, I don't know, but that's why he never showed up on anything. he said. It was then that the Laguna Beach PD took over the case.
I'm hoping you can give me the details as to how this all started.
We made a lot of money.
Made a lot of money out of curiosity.
Well, like the first 5 months we were in business, we made like $1 million in revenue.
Boom! In revenue. In the third year, we did like 5 to 8 million. But you're gonna buy me out for $1 million, bro? The first 5 months, no. The first 5 months, bro, we made $1 million. And then we went on to make more millions, several more million. But you're gonna buy me out for $1 million? Come on, man.
First 5 months we were in business, we made like $1 million in revenue. In the third year we did like 5 to 8 million. He was always talking about making a bunch of money and taking off with it. So he wanted to go to like Costa Rica permanently. I'll buy you out of your partnership. We'll talk whatever $1 million. I can go do whatever you want to do. We'll travel the world. Really dig into the economic collapse of the United States and the need to be out of here. And he's really into conspiracy theories where only a few people control everything. Yeah, and we're all just puppets kind of deal.
They spoke to Ed, who said, he had signed the papers, and then that day Chris had gotten really drunk, he had pissed and puked all over the office, but then he left, and he never saw him again. And that was that.
Like, smells like piss and vomit. I said, what were you doing? He's like, well, I was writing scripts all night. I was like, do you know you trashed the office? And he's like, maybe. So he had completely blocked out. And he had broken bottles, he broke a couple bottles of wine, and we shook hands, hugged, and I said, what are you going to do? He's like, I'm going to take off. Drank pretty much almost every night. The big joke was that, I wrote this script while I was on Lunesta, and I did a bump. I did a bump, and it was like a bump with cocaine. We'd go on these work binges for like 4 or 5 days, and then we'd crash.
What do you think, Kristen?
If that's your guy, you know what I mean? We went into business together. I may not necessarily come out forth and say, okay, the whole cocaine thing or something like, I don't know, man. I just don't feel like I'd be trying. It seems to me like more so of concern a person would speak about somebody, that he's more so trying to paint this narrative about the type of person he was, which would cause him to be missing or go missing or do something like that. You know what I'm saying? Just not an endearing conversation of the person who he was. You could talk about all that stuff that he did, but also where's the endearing qualities about him and different things like that. You know what I'm saying? That's odd to me that you only speak of that stuff, which would lend to the fact of why you bought him out and painting this negative picture of him.
I don't know where he is. I mean, honestly, I think he's the other side of the world.
I just want to be able to tell his dad, sure. He's out of the country, he left the country. There is nothing I can do about that.
This is going to be an open case until we hear from him.
Now, it was a month or two before then, in January 2011, that somebody needed money from the 800 Exchange company. See, they had just packed up all their stuff and left the office building they were renting, leaving the landlord with 40 grand in unpaid bills. Where Ed Shin's company went, nobody knew. Paul had already left by this stage. But lucky for the landlord, right beside in another office was a private investigator. They took on the case of trying to find where the company had gone and discover what assets they had. Didn't take long to find out where Ed Shin had taken the company, basically another business park just a few miles down the road. They learned too that Chris, former co-founder, was missing. And so the private investigators started looking at the Chris Smith case and contacted the family. They immediately got the vibe that the emails were phony. And so one day they asked if they could look around the old 800 Exchange office, something the landlord said the police never did. Snooping around, they happened to notice that in Chris's old office, where it would have been there were small dark stains on the light switch and on the door jamb. Dark stains that looked like blood. The police were alerted, and using good old luminol, the office lit up like crazy. Then, taking samples, they were able to confirm that it was indeed Chris's blood. And so it turned out that in the weeks before Chris had taken his trip, he had wanted to get out of the company. Not because he wanted to go on a wander or anything like that, but because Chris learned that Ed Shin was involved in some shady shit. Ed Shin had money issues. Long before the 800 exchange company started up, he had met a man named Joseph Gray. They both went to the same church. This Joseph saw something in young bucko Ed Shin and hired him, gave him a job to run the LG Technologies company that Joseph Gray owned. It was very similar to the 800 exchange, basically selling leads to companies. However, Ed Shin later started pocketing a few bits and bobs. He changed the account information so that when companies were supposed to pay LG Technologies, the money actually went to Ed Shin's bank account, to the sum of about $2 million. This led to a big ol' scandal, and the court would order Ed to pay back about $700,000 or else go to jail. He had more. Another was that Ed owed about $117,000 to a company that printed a sports memorabilia magazine for him. He also owed thousands upon thousands thanks to his gambling addiction, talking about $185,000, and basically bled cash and owed money all over the shop. It seems Chris found out about this and wanted out, agreeing to sell his share of the company to Ed Shin. So he went and signed the papers, apparently, because when he did, nobody else was in the office other than Ed Shin. They wanted to know one thing. What happened and where was Chris Smith?
There's blood in Chris's office, okay? Mm-hmm. We know that, and we know it's Chris's blood.
Ed eventually admitted to the police that he killed Chris Smith, but it had nothing to do with money. It was in the heat of the moment.
The Orange County Sheriff's Department is pleased to announce the arrest of Edward Young-hoon Shin, 33 years old, of Irvine, for the murder of his business partner, Christopher Ryan Smith. Christopher Smith's whereabouts are last tracked to June 2010, after which Smith is not seen alive by family and friends again. However, communication continued via email with a person who, at least initially, was believed to be Smith.
Ed said that the day before, Chris had been drinking and basically puked and pissed and blacked out in the office, destroyed the place.
It smells like piss and vomit.
So they started pushing, shoving, and well, one thing led to another, and Chris cracked his head off the corner of a desk and started bleeding out. Not knowing what to do, he called an associate, a Russian, he said, who basically took Chris's body, and that's it.
Called a cleaner, which was not a good cleaner. Thought he had a cleanup man. Bro, this is insane. Insane. He would have gotten away with it had not it been for the landlord and the private investigator, because he was in a new office. They didn't know nothing about the previous office, and the family still being diligent and looking and not giving up and searching and being persistent stumble upon his blood, bro. That's like, I feel for that family. Especially after being led on for so long, thinking that your child is alive, and you're receiving these bogus emails thinking your child is just living it up out there in the ocean somewhere, going to different islands, and he's okay.
That's all he knows. That was his story, and he was sticking to it. Ed Shin and Chris Smith really did meet on June 4th, 2010. What happened then, nobody really knows if you choose not to believe Ed Shin's version of events, which most don't believe that. But Chris sent an email, or Chris's email address sent an email to Chris's lawyer, basically saying the buyout wasn't for $1 million as agreed, it was for $30,000 and 10 gold coins worth about $15,000. So a fair bit less. Then, Ed rented a truck and drove 170 miles to an area east of San Diego, near the Mexico border. He did that twice. This was found via mobile phone pings. So it doesn't seem like Ed called any person to disappear a body for him. He went to the desert himself. Though Ed said, he drove to the desert because he was, he'd accidentally killed Chris, so he was freaking out. He wanted to flee to Mexico, but he couldn't go through with it.
And what about the emails to the family and all that? Was that you sending emails?
So instead, he started sending emails. By the way, so Ed had never said who this mysterious Russian guy he claims got rid of Chris Smith's body. He's never said who that person is. He's never named it.
What, no Russian? He did that. He drove out to the desert, and Chris's body is out there somewhere. Unfortunately, they probably can't. You know what I mean? They're not going to be unable to locate him unless, what's his name, gives them the exact location.
The name? So it seems unlikely he exists.
I want to find Chris's body. His family wants to find his body. We need that information, Ed.
I wouldn't know. There's no way. I wouldn't know that.
Then, the week after, Ed Shin insisted that all employees work from home as the office had to be professionally cleaned. Of course, Ed said this was because Chris got super drunk and demolished the place.
And he had broken bottles, he broke a couple bottles of wine.
When blood was noticed by the cleaners, Ed said he cut his hand chopping an apple. So obviously this entire story was bullshit. If Chris fell, why would there be blood on the ceiling? Rather, he wasn't going to pay Chris. After all, he had his own myriad debts. So he killed him, he drove his body out to the desert, dumped him, and then would send emails to his family for months, pretending that Chris was out and about. Ed Shin then got full control of the company and the assets, which he could then use to pay off his debts.
Bizarre and extremely cruel murder and cover-up. Police say a California man killed his business partner to avoid paying him $1 million debt, then covered...
Every time I hear business partner, I cringe, bro. Some of y'all out there have business partners right now. When y'all meet up at the business tomorrow, kind of look at them with a side eye, bro. Ask him, is he in any debt? Ask him, do he need anything? You know what I mean? He want to sit down and he want to talk it out.
his tracks by taking over the victim's email account, sending messages to his family, creating a virtual life online.
Police say it was this man, his former business partner, Edward Shin, who had hijacked Smith's email account and sent all those emails to his family.
He did admit to disposing of some personal belongings, such as his car.
Police say Shin confessed he killed 32-year-old Christopher Smith. In fact, they say Smith never went on those lavish trips. He was dead that whole time. They have yet to find his body. Police say the motive was money. Smith wanted to leave their company.
Mr. Shin had to pay him $1 million. Instead of paying him $1 million, killed him.
Police say Christopher's blood was found inside their Southern California office, which appeared to have been cleaned and recently painted.
Police went to where Ed Shin's phone went, in the middle of the desert, in an attempt to find Chris's body. And they also thought that finding that would tell a different story to what Ed was saying. But they never did. You know, in fact, if Ed really was telling the truth, that it was an accident, then he should be trying to help the police find the body, as it would, prove that, yeah, it was an accident, because the skull would be fractured, as that's how Ed said he died. So, Did he ever attempt to help the police find the body? Did he fuck? Ed Shin's trial went ahead in 2018, 7 years after he was arrested and charged with first-degree murder.
I think that's when he grabbed me.
How did he grab you?
He made a move towards my throat.
Did he place his hands on you?
Yes. I'm just trying to avoid him, not really fight him initially, but then he lunged at me again, and I think either he hit me or something, but it just, at that point, I felt I had to fight back. I just sidestepped and I grabbed him, and I remember just turning around and swinging him into his office as hard as I could.
And were you able to throw him into his office?
Yes.
What happened to when he went into his office?
I think he took a couple steps, and that's when he fell, and he hit the desk really hard.
So explain the blood on the ceiling. You hit your head on the desk. Does that splatter blood everywhere? I don't feel like it does, but what do I know?
What did you do next?
I remember freaking out. I remember, saying, "Oh my God," I said that a bunch of times. Standing there.
Mr. Shin, looking back at this situation, do you regret the things that you did after the fight?
Everything.
Why?
Because it was wrong on every level, not to call the police, not to trust that everything would have sorted itself out, to completely deceive family.
The jury returned with a verdict after less than an hour and found Ed Shin guilty. He was sentenced to life in prison. He is still to this day sticking to the story that it was an accident and some big Russian guy took the body and dumped it in parts unknown, somewhere, anywhere.
How can we believe somebody that would send fake emails and do everything that you did? You expect us to believe you?
The story is very reminiscent of Carrie Farber, who was killed, and then Shanna Gollier kept, everybody thinking she was alive by sending text messages. There you have it. It's kind of like, what's the lesson we gotta learn here in this one? Like I said, be careful who you do business with, and don't trust all emails? Not sure about that one. What else we got? Murder bad. Who knew?
Whew. Bro, told y'all, man. No, y'all told me that chapter is going to take me on a whirlwind of emotions, feelings, just another great storyteller, bro. And I 1000% agree. What a crazy situation. What a crazy thing, man. And like I said, man, for all my business partners out there, bro, be skeptical. Be skeptical. Really know or get to know your business partner. Until next reaction, I'm out. Peace.